Update. My ex, 26 male, dumped me in January after 9 years together because he didn't think I, 27 female, was wife material. Now he reached out wanting to talk because he needs to get something off his chest. I don't know why he doing this or if I should meet him. Original post. I was with my ex, who I'll call Nate, because if I'm being honest, minus betraying a friend, I was a Cassie. I don't want to go too much into the details, but for the last 9 years, I lost myself to Nate. He was my world. Everything I did was for him. I helped him through depression, helped get/keep his grades up, and even worked 2 jobs so he could focus on college when his parents disowned him for nearly 3 years because they didn't agree with the major or college he chose. Bear in mind, I was also a college student. When his parents started talking to him again and began to financially support him, we moved into a new apartment. Nate said he wanted me to quit my job. I didn't, because it was his turn to take care of me. For 16 months, everything was great. He spoiled me. Then I noticed he was more interested in his new friends. At times, he ignored me completely. Back in December, he did a 180 and love-bombed me the whole month. He really went out of his way to make Christmas magical for me. I honestly believed he was going to propose. On January 2nd, he made me my favorite dinner and gave this speech about me being his first love, how I'd been there since high school. I kept thinking, any minute now he's gonna ask me to marry him. But nope, he dumped me. As his speech went on, my world fell apart. And as much as he tried to sugarcoat it, he basically said, "You were a good girlfriend, but that's all you'll ever be to me, a girlfriend. I don't see you as my wife or the mother of my children, blah blah. You served your purpose, now I don't need you anymore, blah blah. I need someone on my level, blah blah. You're a gold digger, blah blah. I'll give you 30 days to move out." I couldn't speak. He stared at me, looking for a response. I think this lasted 20 minutes before he said he'd sleep in the guest room, then left. Strangely, I didn't cry or get angry. I just ordered cardboard boxes online, then went to bed. The next day, I waited for him to leave the apartment before I left my room. Then I called my boss and asked, begged really, if I could transfer anywhere. She told me there wasn't anything, but if something came up in my department, she'd consider me. I then reached out to everyone I knew who wasn't also Nate's friend for a place to stay. My cousin invited me to stay in her spare room for as long as I needed, and I could move in straight away, which was amazing. In the 4 days it took me to pack my stuff and move out, I didn't see or speak to Nate. I doubt he even noticed. I didn't trust myself at the time to ignore a "you up" text, so I blocked him and everyone close to him. I even changed my number and email to make sure he couldn't reach me. The first night at my cousin's was the night everything hit me. I think I cried every night that first month. I honestly felt like crap. I thought about what Nate said over and over again. It made me feel so low, like I was nothing, that he only stayed with me because I was just there. But thankfully, my cousin sent for my mom, other cousins, and real friends to give me an intervention, which I badly needed. I believe that first month, I wouldn't have made it without my cousin. I'm still healing and waiting on the job transfer because I feel like if I'm not in the same city as Nate and I have a place of my own, the fresh start would do me a world of good. I thought by now I'd be a distant memory for Nate, but shockingly, he sent flowers to my job today for my birthday, which was on Sunday. Apparently, he even went to my parents' house looking for me. My mom admitted he's been there before, dropping off stuff and trying to ask questions about me, but they told him to get lost. The flowers came with a card saying, "Dear Cassie, happy belated birthday. I've been thinking about you nonstop for the last few months, especially with how everything ended. I need to get something off my chest that I feel will haunt me for the rest of my life if I don't tell you this to your face. But I have no way of contacting you. If it's possible, can we meet up in the near future? Nate." What could he want? What's haunting him that he needs to say to my face? Everyone in my life is telling me to ignore him, but they hate him. I'm torn, but I can't lie. My curiosity is telling me to meet him and see what he wants. Has anyone been in my shoes or in Nate's? Now for the top comments before reading the update. I just wanted to say, Just because he needs to say something doesn't mean you need to hear it. I doubt it's anything that would add value to your life. He's likely wanting to alleviate guilt for some long ago trespass. My cousin thinks he tried to monkey branch and it didn't work out. Seems like he cheated on you back in December before the love bombing. Now, this dumb cheater is probably engaged to the affair partner, hence the wife material comment. Screw him. Let him implode that relationship just like he imploded yours. He's not a good human, and he's trying to make himself feel better about something. He doesn't deserve that, and he doesn't deserve your time or energy. You know what's pathetic? If he cheated and told me that was the reason he was breaking up with me, I don't think it'd have hurt me as much. Not the a-hole. Don't reply to him, ghost him, block him, send the flowers back when they get delivered. He doesn't deserve you. Now for the update. So we ended up meeting. And no, I didn't go to him. I had told the receptionist at my work that if he came looking for me, just say I was out for the day. After he showed up once, I didn't want the drama of him around my job. So Nate just kept going to my usual places, like the grocery store I go to every Saturday evening or the park I run at on Sunday mornings, his words, until he would eventually run into me. And he did, yesterday. He was waiting at the coffee shop I go to after my morning run. When I saw him, I tried to turn around and leave, but he kept calling me. So I thought to myself, if everything goes pear-shaped, a coffee shop would be safer than my walk home. So I just sat down and asked him what he wanted. He gave an apology that wasn't an apology. You know, the type with, "I'm sorry but," and "pity me." He blamed his mental health, his job, his parents, his friends, everyone but himself. I took someone's advice on here and said, "Cut the crap. I already know everything." He genuinely looked shocked and stared at me for a second. I guess he thought his coworker already told me everything, so he couldn't lie. Here's what really happened. He fell for a girl in his office. When he told me her name, I knew her immediately. I've met her a few times. He told me that for the last 2 years, he idolized her. To be fair, she's beautiful with an amazing personality. And he hated me because I was the one stopping them from being together. His coworker was too classy to be a side piece. When he broke up with me, he confessed to her that he was madly in love and ended a 9-year relationship to be with her. Well, here's where it gets funny. She doesn't even like him. She called him a piece of trash and told him if he ever spoke to her outside work, she'd report him to HR. So I asked him what any of this had to do with me. Like, we are over. I clearly cut ties. There's no reason for us to speak. He wants to try again. Promised we'd get married before the year ends. Said we belong together. I told him no. I'm nobody's second choice. He threw me away after 9 years and said some pretty cruel things to me. And now he thinks if he snaps his fingers, I'll come running back. He tried to beg in fake tears, bringing up the good times in our relationship. I told him to please leave me alone, as he's already wasted too much of my time. I texted my cousin to meet me at the coffee shop. He kept saying nonsense. He even suggested that if I went to couples counseling for a few months, he'd leave me alone. The 20 minutes it took for my cousin to arrive felt like 20 years. In the end, I just stopped listening and stood at the counter making small talk with the baristas until my cousin arrived. She told him to buzz off, and if he tried to follow us, she'd call her brothers. He stayed in the coffee shop as far as I know, and we just went home. That's it. It's only been a day, but I feel like it's over, and I'm free of him. Girl, not the a-hole. You handled that like a queen. He threw away 9 years chasing a fantasy, got rejected, and thought you'd be waiting like a backup plan. Nah, you chose you, and I'm clapping for it. This has to be the dumbest MF out there. Most people have the smarts to get a feel, set something up and monkey branch. I say this with revulsion, but this guy just YOLO'd his way to a breakup. The other girl was never interested in him. Either he is completely delusional and misread the signs, or he thought he was such a catch that she possibly couldn't say no. And now here he is, dumped by both women and crying about his fate. OP, you dodged a nuclear missile with this one. He almost certainly viewed OP as low value and himself as high value. Ugh, hate those terms. He kept an eye out for someone who he thought was more worthy of the person he believed himself to be. When he thought he found her and had a chance, he dumped OP because of course this woman would want him. Only she didn't, so he goes back to OP, assuming she'd fall in line because he was a catch and they'd been together for so long. Guy even assumes that she wouldn't question anything and would be oh so grateful to be able to prove herself to someone of his caliber. Cue her telling him off. You're being stalked. Change your routine. Yeah, I'm gonna do this, as I run at 6 a.m. so not a lot of people around. Gonna miss that coffee shop though. They made the best breakfast wraps, but I'm not taking any chances and I'll go grocery shopping with my cousin. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to repay my ex-husband for the college tuition he paid 4 years ago? So, for some background, my ex-husband and I ended things over 20 years ago. When our son was 2, he stepped out. At the time, I was a stay-at-home mom and going to nursing school full-time. He was paying for my schooling. After he left, I asked him if he would keep paying for my school so I could finish with no debt. He agreed, saying it was the least he could do. A few months after that, he got his affair partner pregnant. Once she got pregnant, she demanded he stop paying for my schooling. It was a fifth of their income, and she said that money needed to go towards their new baby. He refused and kept paying for the remaining year and a half I had left. Over the years, I continued my education, and now I'm a nurse practitioner. I do well for myself, and I never remarried. On to the problem, my son called me and told me he and his wife are expecting. I was ecstatic. I asked if I could come over sometime during the weekend to give them some things, his favorite stuffed animal from childhood, a check, and some other small sentimental items. He said yes, so I went over earlier today. I came by and gave him everything, including a check for a few $1,000s for baby stuff, co-pays, the nursery, or anything else they might need. My son and his wife thanked me and said the money would be very helpful. My ex-husband and his wife came over a little while later. They surprised them with dinner and didn't know I'd be there, and saw the check on the counter. My ex's wife asked about it, and I said, oh well, I wanted to help out where I could. Everything's so expensive nowadays. I was really just trying to be polite, but I don't think it was any of her business. This woman had the audacity to say, well, maybe since you have all this money now, you can finally pay us back all that money you took when you went to college. I was dumbfounded. My ex has literally never brought up me paying him back. He's always said it was the least he could do for both me and our son. My ex has done very well for himself in his career. I didn't see how or why they'd need the money, so I asked them, do you guys need the money or something? My ex said no, and she said, of course not. It's about principle. I told her I will absolutely not be paying them back for college tuition from over 20 years ago, especially when she ended up in our marital home while I was living in a small apartment, barely making ends meet for years after I initially finished school. I've never been bitter or mean. I've always been civil since our kids are siblings, but my blood was boiling. I left shortly after that. According to my son, this has been a point of contention in their marriage. She's brought it up a few times over the years in front of him, and she's now insisting to him that he needs to convince me to finally pay back what they're owed. The biggest issue is that now the whole family is involved. I got calls from 3 separate family members saying I need to get over myself and just pay it back. So, am I the a-hole here? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. He created a mess. Did he pay alimony? Did he take it off his taxes? We didn't have any court-ordered alimony or child support while I was in school. He just paid for the school since it was so expensive. I'm not sure if he took it off his taxes. He just gave me the money every month. Once the divorce was finalized shortly after I finished school, we made arrangements for child support but no alimony. Tell her it was the adultery tax or that her husband was ensuring that his son would have a good life with either parent. Not the a-hole. This is exactly what my ex said. He wanted to make sure we could both afford things for our son. It was in a way a good investment for him because we went half on basically every activity he was in, his first car, and his college tuition. We definitely couldn't have done that if I only had a high school education. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to accept that my wife actually wants a divorce after I said we're separating 4 months ago? My wife, 30 female, and I, 33 male, have been married for almost 10 years. We have 2 kids, 5 and 3. I own a restaurant in our city, and she is an elementary school teacher. 4 months ago, we had a very explosive argument that ended with me saying that we should separate. I told my family that we were separating that day, and then she would not let me in our house. I've had to live with my parents, and she will barely let me see my kids. I have tried to be more involved with helping the kids with bedtime and such when she lets me, but she is so cold to me and doesn't seem to want me around. I have been begging her for us to go to couples therapy, but she doesn't seem to want to at all. I want to work on our marriage, and she doesn't. Fast forward to now, she wants a divorce. She has a lawyer and told me that I should get one. She says I have not been a good partner to her for years. She said she is tired of doing everything in the house and with the kids. But she chose that. She is only a part-time teacher, working half a day, and I run a whole business myself. I have a very demanding job that can involve long hours. It's a small business, so I have a lot of tasks, and it is demanding and exhausting. I usually just get home, shower, and go to sleep, since I have to get up at 4 a.m. the next day. I'm working so hard to provide for my family, and now the whole thing is falling apart. I love my family, and I don't want my kids to go through their parents divorcing. I want her to put in the effort, go to therapy, and work together so our marriage doesn't fail. So, am I the a-hole? You do sound like a massive a-hole. Absolutely ridiculous to say we should separate, then get your panties in a bunch when she wants to make it permanent. What a stupid gamble that's cost you your family. Your spiel about doing no work around the house because you run a business does you no favors. Makes you look even more stupid. He also claims he wants to help with bedtime with the kids and all that jazz, but he also says he works all day, gets home, showers, and gets up again at 4 a.m. There was no way he was helping or parenting prior to, if what he says is true. I try to help in the evenings, but I have catering meals to take a lot in the evenings. I try to stay up to talk to her in the evenings, but she's usually gone to bed early too. Why in the world would you tell your whole family personal business that same day and expect your wife to react any different? You said you wanted to be separated. She gave you that. She probably realized it's much easier to be alone and only take care of the kids. She probably realized that it makes no difference to her whether OP is there or not at all. OP writes that he comes home in the evening, showers and goes to sleep to wake up at 4 a.m. to go to work. The most she probably has to do is wash his clothes. And when there's an argument, his solution is to separate, not try to lessen his workload and be home more, but to go to his parents and tell everyone. So is this counseling supposed to be for him? She's probably happy that she won't have to hear an alarm clock at 4 a.m.